Now, let me just say this and let me just be transparent. For example, I went through a divorce and God was saying, no, I'm not through with you now. When you experience the grace of God at your lowest point in life, it doesn't matter what nobody says because that experience that when I'm at my lowest, that God shows up and say, no, Kelly, live.
Welcome to another edition of Men on the Rise. And today we're always talking to some great people just who have done amazing things. And today we want to share someone with you that actually he's doing some great things and touching lives and just doing some amazing things. So I just want to go ahead and introduce my good friend, Coach Kelly. How you doing, my man?
Brother Stephen, brother Stephen, we great, man. Glad to be here, brother. Glad to be here,
Man,
man. Thank you for having us.
man. Man, I'm glad you're here with us today, man. Like I say, you got so many great things you're doing already, man. So I just kind of want to share with the people a bit about who's Coach Kelly. If you don't mind, just introduce yourself to the people.
Hey, what's up, great people? My name is Coach Kelly. I go by Kelly Simmons III. I'm third and country boy from Anderson, South Carolina. But of course, married and me and my wife, we live in Eastover, South Carolina. Got three beautiful children, one granddaughter. And we both my wife and I started a company called Empowered to Win, and where we do leadership development and consulting. So, man, we inspire, we help, we empower individuals to help them to become winning leaders, man. So that's a little bit about me. And again, man, I'm ready to get to it, brother Steve.
Yes,
I'm ready to get to
yes.
it, man.
Man, I'm so glad to have you, man, because first time we met, you empowered me just through your presentation. We met at an event where you were speaking, and man, you left me flawed. And I was like, yo, I got to get connected with my brother right here because he's definitely on fire. He's not just talking about it, but he's actually in the trenches doing it. So I wanted to kind of back it up, man, because a lot of times to say a person where they are is because of their past, and your misery can sometimes become your ministry. And so a lot of things we go through is and grow through, it actually can resonate on who we are and who we can help. And so I want you to just give a look, introduce to people a little bit about your back and what led you even up to this point. So if you don't mind, give us a little bit about your past and let us know some of the things you went through in life.
Sure, man. Told you I was born in Anderson. I'm from Anderson, South Carolina, born and raised there. Man, my dad was a pastor, so I was a PK kid, and had both parents in the home. So I had loving parents, and I'm the youngest of five children. So I have all sisters, and I'm the only boy. So man, I was the terrorizer that kind of came through. But when you grow up in church and things like that, man, there's that pressure, that, people have this expectation of you. So, when we talk about, being put in leadership roles and kind of having that pressure, that's kind of been what I've grown through. But I was a very shy kid, very reserved kid. And, man, just came up through the ranks, in terms of school. I wasn't a super soft student. I use the joke that I say, hey, man, I was a C and D student with A and B potential. I did just enough to somewhat, get by. However, I knew that there was greatness inside of me. When I gave my life to the Lord at a young age, the Lord's hand was on me, even though I didn't necessarily see all of these things that you see now in me, but God had placed those things in me. So, over the years, I just began to grow. And, I was the first in my family to go to college, graduate from college. I played sports, high school. I was in ROTC, all those things, man. And so Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts over the years, had mentors around me, things like that. And so those mentors, my dad, family, man, they were helping to mold me, where my character was being built, which I think is very, very important. And so, yeah, man, went to college, I was struggling in college because I didn't know how to really study, but I had to work at it. And I think with being being successful in life, that you have to work at it. Success just doesn't come. You have to kind of strategize and have a desire. So my desire was there that I wanted to be successful, wanted to make impact. But it wasn't really until I got older, when I got in college, I started seeing those character traits that were put in me at a young age to start coming up. And I started, kind of being a role model, kind of leading when I was in college. And then, of course, I went into the military. That's where it just grew. But, even with going into the military, getting out of the military because I got hurt as a veteran, I'm a disabled vet. So shout out to all my veterans out there. I went into corporate America, and that was really my plan. I said, man, I'm gonna go work, of course, work in business, and I'm gonna work Fortune 500, be successful, so on and so forth. But God had another plan. And that journey led to education. So it's like all of my experiences that I was learning by myself, developing as a leader, it was to be used in education. Kind of long story short, which is how my wife and I, got into owning our own business, doing leadership development and consulting, working with students. And so that's really where I found my passion. And I began to see, again, all of that experience and exposure that I had. It developed me into who I am, now. So man, I'm standing on the shoulders of my parents. I'm standing on the shoulders of my mentors. I'm standing on the shoulders of my previous coaches. And most importantly, man, I'm doing what God, called me to do. Because even while going through all of those things, how you try to run from God, but you can't run from God. I'm also an elder, at a church, man. So, God still had that calling on me to preach. And so the reality is that ministry is everything that we do. Work, right? Community, empowering people. It's all ministry, man. So, I give glory to God, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be in the space that I'm in now.
Man, that's awesome, man. I'm
Yeah.
glad to see that you say you had great assistance of people in your life. You had your parents, you had other people, from coaches to teachers, that they actually sold into your life to build you to who you are and the character that you actually that you hold yourself to.
Right.
And I know through all that, you had some ups and downs, you had some trials and things like that, but it kept you to keep on using those things you went through to actually grow you. So if you can, let's talk about, some of the struggles, some of the challenges that you had, because everything, even though you put it together, it wasn't all all sunny days, right?
No, sir. Not at all.
So,
Not at
so
all.
let's talk about some of those moments, because that's what some of us feel like, man, we look at somebody else's situation and like, man, it's like they all got it together, man. They figured it all out. But they don't realize we all have it rains on the just as well as the unjust. So you're gonna have your things that you have to deal through. And so let's talk about some of those challenges that you had to face in this journey. Now, and I didn't know you was one of 5 sisters. Like, wow, I got one sister and she a handful.
That's full.
So I
That's
can
right.
only imagine.
Yeah, man.
4 sisters, man. Yo, that was awesome. But and she thought she was my mom. I can only imagine having 4 older sisters. I can imagine.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I had a lot of protection. Let's just say.
Yeah. They groomed you well, I tell you. So,
Yeah.
with that though, man, let's just talk and unpack some of the story. Because, like I say, this Coach, I know you played sports and went to college, and what was that transition? I guess going into college, and you say it was some struggles there. You did have work ethic, but it wasn't thing that you felt like, man, you had some struggles there. Because what's my challenge is, some people have been told, especially from their parents and others around them, it's not saying anything against college, but there are other options and opportunities for people. But let me just hear a little bit about your journey. What was the pros versus the cons of your journey, even through that path to even lead you to your other stage? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, college for me, man, I really, again, with the classes that I was taking in high school at the time, I wasn't really on a college track. Again, I was just taking general ed classes. I wasn't on, I wasn't on the beta club, in the beta club. I wasn't on these special, programs. It was just, to be honest with you, my sister, at the time, the youngest girl, she was dating a young man who played college ball at used to be Baptist College, now it's Charleston Southern University. And of course, anytime I saw, because I didn't have a brother, anytime there was a male presence, I always kind of connected with him. And so when I found out he went to college, I said, "Hey man, that's where I'm going." Right? Didn't have a plan. That was the only college that I had applied for, and I think God just had mercy on me, man. The school had mercy on me. It's like, we're just gonna let him in. We'll let him in. And so, for me, being away from home, the initial challenge for me, again, I was a pretty shy guy, for the most part, and I grew into, who I became. But man, one of the toughest things was not having anybody from home that I could call and talk to. When I was struggling, whether it was in statistics or just, dealing with, just mental, challenges, and self-doubt. And so, I could talk to my parents about certain things, but they couldn't understand it because, again, they had never been in college. So that was very tough for me, not kind of having that support system in that regard in terms of how to navigate school. And so that was a challenge. So I had to work on that. I had to ask for, extra credit. I had to sit at the front of the classroom, because I had to work twice as harder than the next person. Because again, I wasn't there to fail. My plan was to graduate. My plan was to do what I needed to do, to get through college. And so, that was a challenge. Then you got relationships. You got all these different things that are coming. Hey, I'm a man, young man. So, you trying to hang with the ladies and all this other stuff. And then you battling with the call of God on your life too. And so you got all these distractions and things coming at you. And now you have to learn how to discipline yourself. And I wasn't really good at the disciplining part. Like I said, core good guy and things like that. But man, I was just, going kind of with the wind. And so, Bible says double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And so again, God still had me on that path where, again, I had to learn, one, how to hear his voice. And number two, how to, have a desire for success, have a plan for success, and learn how to be resourceful and ask for help. Because again, very prideful, didn't want to ask for help because I didn't want anybody to think that I was slow or dumb. But again, closed mouth don't get fed. If you don't open your mouth, how you gonna get the help that you need to get to where you were? So those were just some of the challenges, man. It's just self-doubt. Again, here it is. I'm down a path that no one in my immediate family had really gone through. So I'm having to figure those things out. I'm feeling what it's like to be away from home and, and making these choices and decisions on my own. So, I think with every person, whether they go to college, going to work, these are just pretty much common issues, but that was just what was prevalent in my life at the time.
Man, that's good, man. Because like I said, I think especially growing up, a lot of us have been told, polish the mental side of things. Suck it up and quiet. Don't really harp on, especially as much as us as males sometimes.
Right.
But that's a real situation, that we have to address. And I think it's more prevalent and more open now that we talk about those things, especially as men. I know we just talked about that on my men's call last week about some of the mental side of things that we deal with, and it's having that opportunity to be able to disclose. And so I know that's something maybe even now that you guys address more, but sometimes it may have been available. We just didn't know who to go to and how to be able to open up to someone as far as the mental aspects of what we go through.
If it's okay if I add, you're right. That so what they call emotional intelligence, that wasn't really a term back then. Because again, if you talk about anything mental, especially growing up in the Black community, that was a negative thing. That was a sign of weakness. And even just as a man, okay, man, I'm just having some, I'm depressed. I'm angry. I'm mad. I'm upset. All these different types of things. Because one of the things that I wanted to say is that, I played football, and, my dad was pastoring. He was a bivocational pastor, which means he was pastoring, full time, and he was working full time. So when I played football and sports and I would look in the stands, my dad necessarily wasn't there. And he really wasn't the athletic type. great man, love, serve, help people. But I'm saying this, he only knew what he knew how to do at the time. And what I wanted to say is, as I began to grow up, and even just in college, and even in my later on when I graduated from college, man, there were things and resentment that I had towards my dad. So it was a personal thing, you know what I'm saying? Because he wasn't, in essence, he wasn't what I thought he should have been, but he was being all that he knew how to be. But I never forget, man, one of the challenges that I had, and I'll say this, is that the Lord had me, the Holy Spirit said, you go and apologize to your dad. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. Why should I do that? I'm the one that was somewhat mistreated. But I'll never forget this. I went to my dad and I said, Dad, I said, you know what? I apologize. He said, apologize for what, son? I said, man, I used to, hold some resentment towards you because as a pastor, you praying for this person, helping these people, but I felt like you wasn't really helping me. And this is what my dad said, Stephen. He said this right here. He said, son, he said, thank you. He said, because I did not know how to come to you to apologize or to say what I needed to say. And it freed him. Because again, sometimes we're carrying the deliverance, even when we've been victimized or maybe we've been wrong in a sense. But the reality is that sometimes we have to learn how to release and how to forgive so that others can be free. And so that just taught me a valuable, lesson as a man that, when we talk about deliverance, man, obviously through God, but it starts with us.
Man, that's good, man. I can take this two ways, but one I want to stay on because you're not the only one who had fathers who were present without being present. And my story very similar. My father had his own struggles early on. He was an alcoholic and on drugs and stuff like that. So he was in the house, but he was a third kid in the house, to put it like that, at that time for him. And him coming to any of my sports, anything like that, of course, he wasn't never really there for. And even like himself, now he's got himself together. Now he's Dr. Stephen Loney. And we have built a relationship within the last 10 years or so. And I found myself a lot of time being the one who engaged in our relationship. And so I encourage those what I've learned through this situation was be the change you want to see.
That's right.
I can't go back and change the past of what I wish what could have happened, but I can live in it now. I can make the day of what we do have great, So
that's right.
So that's something I know a lot of men, a lot of people in general may have some relationship issues with their parents or either someone else in their family. And my thing, don't damage the future based on what you went through in your past.
Right.
And
that's
so
right.
I know that's a conversation, a lot of us, have to deal through. But I'm big on, man, my dad just turned 74, man. Hey, make make the best of what we have, and so we've learned and grown in our relationship and still got room for growth. But I took it as, man, I have to be the bigger one in this situation to get a better relationship with my father.
Right.
We had our challenges.
Right. And that's the thing, everyone comes from different experiences. And when we become men, that role reverse, it changes. Because in his mind, hey, if I'm providing and I'm doing, and again, my dad was a great dad. It wasn't no domestic issue, things like that. I definitely want to paint that picture. But what I'm saying is that I'm trying to take care, of my family. So I need to provide, I need to work. I got a wife, I got kids, I got all these things that's going on. But then at the end of the day, it's like, hindsight 2020. If you don't have some, like the relationship even we have, holding each other accountable. Hey, bro, you need to work on that. Hey, you spending time out here speaking, and maybe you need to spend some more time with your family, or you doing this or you doing that, because it's very easy sometimes to make our work an idol to escape responsibility. I can't go out here and give the community everything, but then my home is struggling. So I have to learn how to balance that, because again, what the world says is grind, grind, grind. No, grinding, you're going to grind till you grind out. You got to have some balance. know what I'm saying? What I'm saying. But see, that sales and that stuff sounds great, man. I gotta grind. I gotta hustle. I gotta do all this other kind of stuff. But then if you're a man of God, you better hear the voice of the Lord and what he's telling you to do in the season that you're in. And so that's why it's very important to understand, which goes back to what you were saying earlier, about some challenges. When you're not aware that God has you in seasons and in certain, places in your life, you got to know the season that you're in. Because this might be the season where you're focusing on your family. It's not saying that you let your job go, but at the same time, hey, I got to discipline myself and have a schedule. At this time, this is my family time. This time I'm working. This time I'm working out. This time I'm doing this for myself. And sometimes it's taking time for ourselves. So, it's balance that we have to learn. Yeah, man.
And that's really good, man. Because like I said, I was listening to something today, and God said something about discipline is not a choice that you have to continue making. Once you made a decision, honor that decision, and it's no more choosing. Because once you made the choice, you just got to follow through now. The choice is already made.
Right.
So you just got to be on point to keep that what you said. And so keeping your word. So if you know, not saying sometimes you have to, when I think of balance, I don't think 50-50. It's not about that, but it's being present. It's being present when you're there. And so and I'm not gonna even lie like I master that.
Well, we are right.
Yeah, but it's to know that and to keep on working towards that, to where whatever you give of yourself, you give all of yourself, not 50% of yourself. So it's not ever going 50-50, but giving 100% ever.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's something I look at. Go ahead.
No. I was going to say, man, I totally agree with you. I think the world and just sometimes in general, like the word discipline becomes a bad word. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm not disciplined, well, most of us, for the most part, most men, I think, maybe, well, I don't know in this day and time, most men, you should get up, go to work. That's a discipline. It's a discipline, like you said, to keep yourself in the house. I'm not going out. I'm going to stay here. You know what I'm saying? So we talk about certain discipline. I think that we definitely need to, we need to sometimes forgive ourselves and not put too much pressure, you know what I'm saying, on ourselves that, you know what I'm saying? If I'm not doing it the way Steven is doing it, I'm not doing the way this brother's doing it, I'm not doing it the way it's being done on, social media, and I'm not keeping up with him, then man, I'm missing the mark. But bro, if you just take an assessment and look where are you disciplined? It's not that you're not disciplined. It's just in the wrong. Sometimes it could be in the wrong things. In the wrong, I got it. Because remember, God's already put everything in us that we need. We just got to know where to apply it and to put that pressure so that, again, we can carry those things out, man. And like what you said, Proverbs 16:3 says, commit your work to the Lord and then your plans will be established. That's exactly what you just said a few minutes ago. Right? Okay, it's commitment. I'm committed to this. Now, let me just say this and let me just be transparent. For example, I went through a divorce. Right? So you got to believe, all the stuff that I'm dishing out, now here it is, again, I've committed, like I said, I've gone through divorce now. Well, I'm not going to be good for anybody. And I had to go through the Lord. I had to go to the Lord, ask for forgiveness, all those types of things. I couldn't blame her because it's so easy to point the finger. I had to look at me and say, you know what? What do I need to change? What do I need to learn from this? And God graced me. People can say what they want to say, but God graced me to get married again, to be able to go through that. And so the things that I was not disciplined in or structured in, even from the onset, now I'm more aware of that so that I can commit to say, hey, this time I want to make sure that the plan is established that God has for my life. And I'm with the person who God has, for me.
That's good, man. Well, I want to go ahead and go down that path to kind of unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I said, I myself been through the divorce myself, and truly say a divorce, like you said, it's not something that one person did it all. They may
Right.
have did some things that wasn't good, but you
Mm-hmm.
have to look at self, because it's in any relationship, it's always room for you to reevaluate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
through this time, even for me, it was a dark moment. Anytime you go through a divorce, it's like losing a whole arm. It's
Yes, sir.
it's not a part of you that can't be replaced. It's a dark moment, but you know, it was a time for even for me to reflect and say, what do I need to do to become better? And so during that time for me, I put down Proverbs 31 because I knew I want to be married again. Put
Mm-hmm.
around on my walls, and at the bottom I said, I must first become a Proverbs 31 king to attract
Mm.
my Proverbs 31 queen.
Come on.
So I must be what I
Come
want to
on.
have. And
Come on.
so that's important. You know, you want greatness, but are you great? Are you
That's
that
right.
what you want? And so
That's
that's
right.
important, man. So let's just talk a little bit about that
Yeah.
situation, if you care to. What was it like, and what did you go through during that dark moment? Let's just unpack that a little bit for you, man, because I
Bruh.
know I
Bro,
know that Lady Williams season. I know. Uh,
man, listen, man. It's a like you said, it's a death experience. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
Because you know now I'm just gonna say it. I know we're in a different world, but usually most people don't plan on getting married to go through that,
no.
right? And so situations in life happens, but of course going through that, man, that was bro, that was a that was a tough situation. Like you said, man, I felt like, again, it was a death experience. I felt like, of course, and I had a son, and so the reality is that, um, man, he was young, he was 6, and so it was a challenge, man, because I wanted to do things to keep things together, and I felt like I didn't have any control at the time to be able to keep those things, together. And I felt like, man, for me, one, I felt like I definitely let God down, which I felt like I did. It was very dark. I was so disgusted with myself at the time. I used to come home and I used to just turn all the lights off. I would keep the house dark because I was just so deep in depression, you know, and I really, really struggled, going through that. And so much so, it took me having to go back home to my family because I had just lost myself. And it took my family, man, kind of speaking to me, encouraging me, helping me and reminding me who I was. It's kind of like that prodigal son, you know what I'm saying? Where the Bible says he came to himself. And God was saying, "No, bro, I'm not through with you now. Now you're gonna face some consequences and repercussions for decisions and choices that you made, but my hand is still upon you." And so when the grace of God, bro, man, listen, that thing about to take me somewhere now, bro. When the grace that when you experience the grace of God, bro, at your lowest point in life, it doesn't matter what nobody say. You know that it was the hand and the voice of God. As the old hymn says, love lifted me when nothing else could help. Bro, it was his love that lifted me, bro. Why I'm standing here, bro, I'm trying not to cry now because
Mm,
that experience, bro, that when I'm at my lowest, that God shows up and say, "No, Kelly, live. You can get up and walk." Matter of fact, that's what he said. He said, "Get up and dust yourself off." Because I used to go in and I used to be crying, man, on the floor, feeling defeated. Going to work, come home, man, falling on the floor, just crying, just depressed, man. But it took the love of God through my family and just the scriptures, the promises of God, and things like that, man, to pull me up out of that pit, bro. Because I was in a pit. So what you
yeah.
see today is the grace of God, bro, operating in my
Mhm.
life.
Wow, man. Wow. So how was it to when you finally found that traction? How did that transition? What started happening in
Mm,
your life that kind of brung you to see that light? What started happening? I know you say your family and things like
mm,
that, but
mm,
once you start getting that second wind,
mm,
you know, what was
mm.
life like going into that new season?
Man, listen. See, the beautiful thing that God gives us is a choice.
Hmm.
I had a choice. I could have stayed there or I could have make the decision that I'm gonna move forward. And so
Mm,
my choice was to move forward. Come hell or high water, I'm making a choice to move forward because again, what God spoke to me. So the determining factor was there. That was there was desire. My desire was that you know what, God is not through with me. My son still needs me, and at the end of the day, you know, if God has the desire or will for me to get married again, then I'll meet someone. So I did what you did. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna write it down." And so I began to write those things down, and I began to ask God, and He began to remind me of what He called me to. I still
mm,
called you to preach. I still called you, you know, I put this vision in you. And that's what I held on to. You know how people, you know, the dreams, when God gives you a dream and gives you a vision, man, that thing keeps you alive. And so that's what I began to really continue to remind myself. And again, ups and downs, good days, bad days, low days, high days. But I held on to what God had promised, bro. And that's how I began, and my life started to change. It took a while now. It took a long time for my understanding that God could love me so much that He could still trust me what He placed in me.
mm. That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you understand? so
Yes, yes.
so
I,
so
I,
go ahead, bro.
mhm.
Go ahead.
Nah, go ahead. I ain't want to kill your thought though, man. I was thinking about God qualified the call, not call or qualified.
Mm-mm.
And
Right.
so, yeah, man. So that just made me think about that, man. He had a call for us, and a lot of time when we lean into that gift and to that thing that God he has for us. Because, like I say, my gift is I'm a connector. That's not
Yeah.
a sexy gift by any means, but but when you use your gift,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? It does beyond what you can imagine. When
Mm.
I mean, this weekend I got a chance to connect some amazing people just
Mm.
because I met this person. We actually went upstairs and I met this person earlier and I connected them to and magic just it's like wow. And I say it like times, it's sometimes when you're using your gift in the right way, it's
Mm.
like you inside the movie eating popcorn, watching it unfold right before your eyes.
Right before your eyes. That's right. That's right.
But my thing is, and I hear you over and over saying the same thing that I'd say, you have to seek God's face. And the
Mhm.
more you lean into seeking his face, and he'll give you desires of your heart, he'll give you what's in your hand, what's in his hand, but you have to love him, not the stuff that he's going to have for you. And
Right.
so that's something I'm hearing you say. So I want to definitely talk about you finding this area where
Mm.
you are now. How did
Mm.
all this kind of start coming together for you?
A dream, bro. The dream that God had given me. Um, God had, I saw myself on a stage. God had in the dream, God had me on a stage and I couldn't see the crowd. You're a speaker, you know how this is. You know, you're on the stage, you can see the lights, but you can't see the crowd. And as I was speaking, there was fire coming out of my mouth. And the Lord was sharing with me that I was going to be speaking life and speaking deliverance to people,
Mm,
you know, and at that time he was really giving me when I went through all those challenges in military and you know going to corporate America, all these working these great jobs and stuff, but I was still empty. See, when I got remarried and God began to work with me, I was homeless, bro. I started and God's giving me these things while I'm homeless, while I'm, you know, again, starting life over again. And now I'm on this path. See, he'll let you get a glimpse of it, but then you'll look at your situation, Lord, how am I gonna get there? Well, that's right. I'm gonna do it. You can't do it. I have to do it. So it's a trust. And so, man, listen, bro, God began to put me in spaces, education. Never wanted to do anything around education. I'm out there playing golf, minding my business. Next thing you know, I get this call from my buddy. I went to play golf with these guys, and an executive director of a charter school said, I want to interview that guy because based on his experience, I want him to come start working with my students. Brother, I wasn't even pursuing it. See, when God pursued, bruh, Listen, when God is on you, Doc, and the favor is on you, bro, nobody can stop that. And so when I got into education, man, God just began to start giving me these things. And I started putting curriculums and training together. I'm going through all these different types of things. And I was a job readiness coach. I was like a career coach. And so, man, I was doing this stuff. I'm not even really still understanding the magnitude of what God was doing in my life, bro, Stephen. But he was preparing me for such a time as this, bro. And so, I worked at the charter schools. God had blessed me to go work in public schools, and I worked in higher ed as a job readiness coach, career counselor. And again, man, I'm giving you the Reader's Digest version. And then God placed us where we could start our own company, working with students ages 13 to 25 and empowering them through training and equipment. So I was like David, bro. I was out there in the field tending the sheep and then realized God was setting me up, man, to be able to slay the giant. To empower,
Yes.
yeah, bro, for people who don't see themselves as leaders and people don't see themselves as winners, being able to speak to their heart, man, and speak to where they are and empower not just young people, even just professionals and organizations. Because even now, our heart and desire was to just work with students. But God began to open up doors where I started working with professionals and adults. And so now our company, man, has grown. We've been in business. We've been full time in what we do for 5 years. And bro, going on 6 years. And I'm just telling you this. First of all, it's God's business and he has sustained it all. And I'm talking about, you got to understand sustaining to the level where you ain't got no money in your bank account, but he's still keeping it together.
Yes.
But now what we're talking about is process. See, there's a process to everything. It just doesn't just come and happen, overnight. It would be easy if I had some wealthy family member. Oh man, I'm gonna give you $1 million or $100,000 and start your business. No, God started us with nothing. And he sends somebody out to see what we're doing. And they said, you guys need to get paid for what you're doing. See, when we first did our first contract, I didn't even know how to put a contract together.
That's it. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm not even gonna sit here and try to take the credit, because I can't take the credit because God did it. I didn't do it. I told you what my mindset was, and I'm just going off of what he's shown me. But man, the prayer that I had, and I'm gonna let you get to it, man. I don't want to take over, man. But the prayer I had, I said, Lord, whatever you do through us, you open the door. Because I don't want the man to get the credit for nothing. And God just began to do those things in and through us, bro.
Man, that's awesome, bro. Man, it's yeah, man. That's a blessing. Now, if you wouldn't mind, let's just talk about some of the things you guys are doing. So now that you say you've actually worked with students from 17, from 13 to 25, even working with adults and things like that. So what does this look like? How are you serving the people? Are you, like I said, are you still in the schools, or how are you going about helping individuals out there? What do you guys doing?
Yeah, for our company's blessed. We are we work with students with disabilities. We're a vendor with Voc Rehab, and so we work with students across the state of South Carolina with disabilities, and we've been doing that for the past 5 years. That's how actually we got into the business. And so what we realize is that in this season, in which you'll understand, or what you learn to understand, that passion and the skills that got you to where you are is not going to be that same. The passion is there, but it requires a different level of skill, a different level of knowledge and education to take it to the next level. And what we realized is that this business is not, because when we started, it was just me and my wife, and oh, this is great. We're able to do what we love. But then when the vision is bigger than you, when the assignment is bigger than you, it's not even about you. It's about being able to be blessed so that you can bless other people. In other words, scale, grow, and develop. And so with that, our mission had to change. So now, you know, we really focus on, like I said, leadership development from an organizational standpoint, where we can help organizations to build sustainable growth, kind of by cultivating their winning leadership. So God bless me, just to put a plug in there, man. God bless me to write a book, the Winning Leadership Challenge. You may not see that because of the light, but it says the Winning Leadership Challenge, and I wrote it for students. This is an 8-step challenge for students to empower the winning leader within. But with that, has given our company the framework of what winning leadership is, that works for students as well as adults. And so we want to strengthen the workplace, the culture, and we want to empower people to thrive. You know, whether that's, you know, young people, and whether that's, you know, again, young adults or adults. And so, you know, that's what we do. And we're just guided by our values, man, to reflect the heart of winning leadership. You know, that's what we feel like it's the message that we have, and that we aspire to do. And so we've been blessed to work with educational institutions, businesses, nonprofit organizations, and even the faith-based community.
Awesome, man. So if someone wanted to connect with you, how, or if you want to find out more about this, how could they reach out to you guys?
Sure. Well, me directly at Coach Kelly Simmons.com. That's Coach Kelly, Kelly Simmons.com. Of course, I speak and we do training, but there's information there. We're right in the transition now, of course, with Empowered to Win, which is the name, again, of the website that we have, empoweredtowin.com. But we're transitioning into our branding with Empowered to Win Leadership. So you can go to empoweredtowin.com, contact us, but we're going to be updating our website, social media with Empowered to Win Leadership, because it's truly a movement. But if you want to contact, you know, of course, me initially, definitely Coach Kelly Simmons.com, or Coach Kelly Simmons on all social media platforms. Definitely can reach out to me, and we definitely are here to serve.
No doubt, man. Well, bro, I want to thank you so much for this coming through, man, sharing what you're sharing your story, sharing your journey, but also empowering others to realize, man, if you can go through it and make it to a better place, not only just for yourself, a life of success, but having a life of significance where you're able to make a difference in helping others, man. That's what it's all about. And so, man, if you can, just drop a nugget, drop some words of what you would share with anybody to encourage, to empower them to keep going on this journey.
Yes, sir. Continue to stay true to your why. If you don't have it, discover it. You know, what's your why for waking up every day? What is it that you want to do? How do you want to make an impact, you know, in this world? You know, and then once you figure out that why, what's going to be your top 3 contributions that you're going to make this year, starting today? What are going to be 1, 2, 3 contributions that you're going to make this year? And then the third thing is, what are you going to commit to? What are you willing to commit to? Like what we were talking about earlier, it's about that discipline. But we have to make a decision. In order to bring change, we have to make a commitment, right? I said I was going to stop at 3, but I'm going to give you one more. Then you have to, as a person, ask yourself, what do I need support in? We cannot be so high. We cannot be at a place where we think we know it all. Right? We have to learn how to be resourceful. We have to learn how to ask for help. And so that's it, man. Understanding your why, what's going to be your top 3 contributions, what are you going to commit to, and where do you need support in your life, in your business, in your community today? That's
awesome,
what I got.
Awesome. Yes, sir, bro. I appreciate you so much for coming through, man, dropping some great information, some jewels, and definitely for everybody to take the time out of your schedule to check this out, man. I hope it blessed you. Hope you enjoyed it, but also continue tapping in with us because we want to help you to be the best version of yourself. Until next time, be great.
Yes, sir.